on testing data flowing into AZ for special ed transactions. Someone had asked a question about that. And that testing is going very well as well. So that's kind of our background. What we had hoped to do today was share with you some of our experiences that we've encountered in this process. There we go.
All right, so the State Department has done a great job of putting the information out on their website for now the AZ's transition. And so we've included that website in our presentation. We'll make sure that it's accessible on the ASCUS website as well. But if you go to that website, they really have it outlined as far as making the move to AZs and what you need to do as far as on the state side. Because you will need to, first of all, you can check the transition schedule. That's where they're, I guess, being voluntold is the word I heard. But you can check that schedule to see where you are in that process and decide which week that you want to go. And then you do need to email AD support so that you can get that process started, so that you can get the keys and secrets that you're going to need to put in your system to help to get your data flowing to AZs. Also, you'll need to work with your vendor to make sure that your SIS is ready and that you have the information that you need and where you're going to put those keys that the AD gives you so that you can turn on AZ. So communication with both parties is very important, and that's really kind of what we found throughout the whole process is it's a team effort, and you definitely have to be working with your SIS and with ADE as a partnership and to make it successful.
So what you're going to do is you're going to follow these step-by-step instructions for when you're ready to transition. First, you can go on now and check the transition schedule to see when you're scheduled to transition from SACE to AZs, and that's here. The next thing you do is you decide which week of that month that you want to transition, and you contact ADE by emailing ADE support, and then you're going to work with your SIS vendor. One thing that's really important in this process too, and you may want to take a look at this prior to transitioning, is making sure that your roles for ADE Connect are set up. You heard ADE discuss today that you can access the AZ's reports right now because they're pushing data from SACE, what you're submitting into SACE, into AZ. So you can go in right now and look at those AZ's reports so that you're familiar with that information. So that's really important that you have the roles set up so that you're able to do that. And this last item on this page talks about submitting data and the AZ's report. So this is very helpful in the process to guide you step by step through that. And we've just outlined a few of the basic instructions here with the link to get to that page. Everybody should be very familiar with that ALIAS page by now because we've been looking at it for quite a while, but this is where you find that information. So it's important when you email ADE and request your API key and secret that you include your LE name, the entity ID number, your transition date, and also your SIS vendor.
And then this has actually changed some since with the announcements from ADE today. So hopefully, once you are live with AZID, you will want to sign up for that red flag. Red flag. Yeah, because I'll tell you, the last week or so, getting that communication from ADE has been so helpful. Just knowing the status, because before that, you could go to this site that we've listed. There's a network and service status update page, and we could go to that site and look and find out the status, but the communication wasn't as timely, and yeah. And so we found we were spinning our wheels looking at data that it hadn't changed, and wondering why it hadn't changed when we knew that it had changed. So I think that's going to be very, very important that you sign up to receive that once you're live with AZEDS, that you sign up to receive those status updates. And then, of course, the announcement of the new dashboards and things that they're going to have are going to be very helpful. It really is about communication, and that really helps. And Mark even said, that's been one of the pieces that's been difficult. And the last week it's been really, really nice. We literally had 2 and 3 emails a day letting us know the status of what things are going, and then it went down to 1 a day. And now they're going to turn those off, and you're going to sign up to receive those if you want to. And I definitely would recommend that when you go live AZEDS, that you want that communication. You need to know the status of what the processes that are happening.
And the dashboard that they shared with us today will be very helpful for those of us that are still using SACE to see where those files are in the queue. Because we've seen processing delays and files that actually reject and have to be resubmitted in their entirety because of issues with the transition from moving data from AZEDS to SACE. I've been using this page ever since I learned about it, just to see if there are issues with moving data from AZEDS to SACE. Then I know I may not want to submit my SACE data right now if they're experiencing some issues. So this has been helpful.
And so we've included this link in the presentation, and you can also write it down if you want to get there before that's posted. But that has been helpful. Once we learned about that, it truly helped all of us make better decisions in how we were submitting data and analyzing it.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about ADE Connect. If you're currently not using ADE Connect, you'll want to get your roles set up in ADE Connect so that you can look at the reports. And this is an example of what your entity administrator would need to set up for you to have access to the reports. So there are 4 different roles here currently, and your district or charter entity administrator can grant you access to these roles. The data coordinator base report role gives you access to the Stud 10 report, the Trans 11, probably the other trans reports that were discussed today. Specifically, the data coordinator role for EL reports gives you access to the EL 10 report. The SPED report gives you access to the SPED 10. And then the support program report is the support 10 report, those new reports that replace the 72 reports. This document gives you more information about those roles. What that's going to show you is ADE's document on the actual roles. And there we go. You may have a bad link here. It doesn't look like it's showing. But this is available on ADE's site under ADE Connect. Discusses the roles and how you set them up. There's also training available. ADE is doing training for entity administrators on setting up roles in ADE Connect. We'll let Carol go. There we go. So this is the ADE Connect page, and this has all the information about training here on this area. So there is an upcoming training for entity administrators on ADE Connect. next week, December 16th. This is where you would sign up to register for that training. That goes through the process of how you set up the roles for your users within AD Connect. And there's, on this page, there's a user manual. I think a reference is what I was looking at. No worries.
We'll get that link fixed so that it works.
And then on that same page, there are some frequently asked questions section for you. If you have any questions on what AD Connect does, how I sign up for training, how I use it, how I change passwords, that information is all located here. Talks a little bit about the reports, and then there's a section for entity administrators.
All right, so this slide is no longer all the reports that are there because of the announcement today by ADE, which is fabulous because that shows you that they really are working to try and get reports out in a more timely manner. But these are the reports that, again, even if you're reporting through SACE, you can still have access to and become familiar with because you're going to want to do that. And so these are the reports that we have used as we have started to analyze our data. And I loved it because I've said it over and over again. If all I was doing was submitting my data to the AZEDs, I'd be living the dream, right? Because it's going there fine.
Right.
It's the data from AZEDs to SACE that's been the issue. And so that's where the heartache and the pain has really come for me as an AZED school, because getting it to AZEDs has not been an issue. It's landing there, it's looking good, I mean, it really is going well, thanks to all the parties involved. But these are the reports that we have used as we started looking at our data and how it's going into AZ. So the Trans 11 report is what we were using to determine whether or not our records were landing in SACE successfully. And there are some issues with this report. It's not reporting all of the transactions that fail, and we just really determined that in the last couple of weeks. And so we are having to make sure that we're continuing to use the reports on SACE as well, which, first of all, that is, you have to use the SACE reports. That's where the funding is coming from, so that's the records, SACE. So those reports are still very, very, very important. But you do want to become familiar with these reports. The Stud 10 report is similar to what would be known as the 72 in SACE. However, at this time, we have to run it multiple times and merge our data together. So that's been a little more time consuming. But as you heard today, ADE is really working hard to get us the ability to have that data compiled into one report instead of having to run multiple reports to get the data that we need to analyze and figure out where we're at. Then you, along with the Stud 10, you have a SPED 10, ELL 10, and Support 10, which again are like your SPED 72 and those similar reports. The Stud 72 is like your individual membership, which is like your 71-1, which is so confusing because they're like mixing numbers. What used to be the 72 is now the 10, and what used to be the 71 is now the 72. I don't know why they picked what numbers they picked, but there is a crosswalk, yes, on ADE's website that helps you understand which report correlates to the old SACE reports, and that's been helpful as you look at those. And now the Trans 10 report, that's where we would go to look at the summary 10 and then the details, but you heard today they're pulling the detail portion of that out, and it will be in the Trans 15, thank you, 15. So that would be nice because this report's been a little tricky to maneuver, but you could dig through it and find what you were needing, but I think the new report will be much more helpful.
when you're looking at like a Trans 10 report too, and you're digging into the detail, you're looking at like raw data. It's not formatted like you would expect to see in a report that you're familiar with using in SACE, like a status report. So just becoming familiar with those reports is important, so you know how to look at them and actually look at your data.
And then, of course, you know, it's like I said before, it's very important that you continue, that your SACE reports are still where it's at. I mean, that's where the buck stops here kind of thing. And so you do still, I mean, your first step is to reconcile your CIS with your 72. But like I said, because the Trans 11 report wasn't catching all of the students that were failing and not getting to SACE, then you do still need to check your SACE transaction results. And for me, you know, in the past we submitted that whole issue, we submitted our data at the school level. And so when we first went in there, we were like, well, we don't have any reports, there's nothing there. Then we looked at the district level, and that's where all of our data was, that's where all of our reports were. And so that was a change. And so you have to be prepared for that kind of a change, in that we couldn't even find our information at first. So,
and that's important if you're using AZEDS currently and you're looking for data in SACE, they're pushing it at a district level versus school level, which the majority of people submit at school level. So it's important that you do look at those reports at district level. And every time that ADE pushes data from AZEDS into SACE, you should see a new sequence number. So if that push happens once a day, you would have 7 sequences for that week. And then from there, you may want to look at what errors are coming back on the SACE side, because it's not always a successful process. And then you have to determine where the disconnect is, per se, between AZEDS and SACE. Is it a problem with, it's not a problem with your data if it went successfully into AZEDS, but maybe the push to SACE, there's some data element that it is not recognizing, and that's causing a problem. So you can download your sequence numbers in the same manner that you have always used SACE, by going to the status page and selecting get status on a particular sequence, and then you can export it in XML or simple text format.
and then support. Again, I echo what Louise said as far as the ADE team. It's been a pleasure to work with them. They really are. We meet with them once a week at this point right now, because we've been part of the beta testing from the beginning, and so we've been meeting with them once a week, and they're really trying to put the issues out there and make sure improve the communication. But you'll continue to work with your CIS when you determine that it's a CIS error, and that you need to report those errors to your CIS so that they can resolve the issue on their end. And then here's the email address that you'll use to report issues with AZEDS. And then, of course, you'll continue to report issues with SACE to the AD support. So it makes it a little more tricky in knowing, where do I report this? Because sometimes you can't determine, is it a SACE error? Is it an AZEDS error? Or is it a CIS error? And so sometimes you end up reporting things to maybe the wrong place, but it eventually gets to the right place through the analysis of the team. It truly is a team effort. And I've appreciated the support that we've had through our CIS and through ADE, the AZEDS team. Haven't really been involved in the SACE side much. Susan has, but we're getting there. And I guess I would say you got to have patience. That's one thing. Patience isn't one of my virtues that I really have, but I'm getting better. This year has really helped me with that, because it's a test year. You know, we're really trying hard, and every day, you know, I'm like, I submitted my STC data, I still didn't have my 40th day even submitted. We're way past 40th and almost 100th, and kind of looming that AZ merit stuff's looming, and it's like you're kind of getting a little, you know, but we're just almost there. We're like just almost there, and so through the team effort, it really we're gonna get there.
And it is really important that you share your feedback with your vendor and also with ADE so they know where there are challenges so that they can address them. That's what the pilot groups have been doing for the past few months, you know, testing programs and sharing feedback with the vendors and also with ADE to make this solution better for everyone.
Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you.
They did an awesome job. Thank you. I think that's what everyone needed to hear. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to make it. It is a challenge, but it will be okay in the end. Okay, we're going to break for the user group meetings. I know it's a little later than we anticipated, but